or stelliums, which means a bunch of planets in Virgo. This is your forecast for the rest of February. And it is a Saturn day, and the moon has just ingressed your seventh house, where my ascendant is, but later. And the hour is the hour of Sol, that is in 21 degrees Aquarius, applying to beautiful sextile with Aries in Aries, which should be honored in a particularly other set of episodes. And so Sun is also ruling the ascendant here. 26 Aries is the midheaven here in the ninth house, with Mars in the sixth house in Capricorn. Venus 22 degrees Capricorn, so stay strong. And Saturn in Pisces, Moon in the eighth house, Saturn in the eighth house of this recording. Okay, not your chart. I'll get to your chart. And Jupiter in 8 degrees Taurus. So, February for you, Virgos. And I always like to give a funny title. And my funny title is Get a Pet or Get to Work, because you're going to be, and you're already having, a stellium, which means a bunch of planets ingressing and staying and transiting your sixth house, with the ruler in the seventh. And so sixth house, it is our duties when we are of service to people, okay? And so sixth house is also our physical health. And so we understand from this that our duties need to support our physical health, or not drain on it all that much. Otherwise, we cannot serve people, okay? This is an evergreen teaching for you Virgos. And this is also the house of pets, because pets used to work for us. And if you look at YouTube, you see that pets work for us still today. They just have hopefully better living conditions. And so I'm happily filming this with a pet on my lap. And so I'm very wealthy and fortunate. And so when you do in the sixth, when you caretake for a pet, yes, you is basically good for your physical health, and you're also at service to someone, and hopefully it can remediate the issues of having enemies at work, okay? Because sixth house is something you have to do, and this is why I named this episode Get a Pet or Get to Work. So Virgos, Sun is already in your sixth house, Pluto already in your sixth house. It's not for good, like S.J. Anderson calls it. The for good one will be in November, when Pluto will be from September to November 19. It will be in Capricorn, and then November 19 it is ingressing for good into your sixth house. So you can expect major events. A little bit of good news about the 12th, and this is a big shout out to Lada. So you can watch Lada's recent video that she did about the changes up until 2027, and it's a collaboration with an energy reader. And what she says about Pluto in Aquarius is that this is not like Capricorn, where you have a rigid structure and you have to go through the structure traditionally, or you have to do it again. Here it is about switching from one thing to another. So if you are Virgo, it means that you're going to be dealing with something that is intense but more relaxed than the Pluto transit in your fifth house, by the merit of the sign. This is not mine, this is Lada Duncheva. Watch her for more on that Pluto. And now we are expecting Mars to ingress your sixth house in February 13. But before that, Sedna will ingress to Yes, Taurus for you is the ninth house, so to your 10th house. And your 10th house is Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury, which is the same ruler as your ascendant or the ruler of your sun, moon, or stellium. So I do want to talk in length about Sedna and also honor Sedna if we are so inclined, because Sedna describes, she is the Inuit sea goddess. Okay, so she's ancient. Okay, Inuits have been so long on this planet, and she is describing a story of a girl. There are many, many versions. This girl didn't want to marry. Her father was concerned because who will take care of her? Who will hunt for her, and so on, although they lived as community, right? And he eventually, or he either sold her to a man, or this girl found a man that was to her liking, and he said, but come with me, don't stay in your village, come with me. And so she wanted to travel with this man and get to know the world, or alternatively, she was sold to this man with her father believing it's like, hey, darling, somebody has to take care of you. I won't be alive eventually. But this man was, in some of the versions, this man was abusive to her and she runs away from him. Or her father is looking for her, is wondering about her, and he's wanting to save her. So he goes out with the ship. And as she reaches the boat, there is a raven. Okay, the man she ran off with was, or was sold to, was a bird man. Okay, this can play significant roles. So I want you to understand the omens as well. And she runs to her father, but the raven is kind of peeking at her or trying to make a mess also with the sheep of the father. And so the father betrays his child and cuts off her fingers, so she's drowned and becomes the sea goddess. Okay, there is also a story about her hair, and I think within her hair live the sea creatures. And you know, Inuit lived in cold areas that, like what we call today Alaska. And by the way, for those who are not at all familiar with this, then the name is not Eskimo. Okay, Eskimo was a name that white people gave to Inuit. So it's Inuit, Inuk, or Inuk, Inuk, Inuit, or Inuk. I think Inuk is a person, Inuit is the culture. Um, and so they relied on hunting sea creatures, okay, sea animals. And so Sedna was a very important goddess. You had to honor Sedna, or else you had to pay reverence to Sedna, or else basically she would control the food that is coming from the sea. Okay, and you know, hunting or fishing basically is very risky. You go to the sea, and it's very risky. It's not a simple profession, and so Sedna became a very, very famous and important goddess in Inuit mythology. Um, and as Sedna is leaving Taurus, okay, she was in Gemini around, I think it was around June to October, November, something like this. And then she ingressed back into Taurus, where she's been the past 40, 50 years. And now she's going to Gemini. So this is the big move. And Pluto from 0 degree Aquarius is trining this move, facilitating the transition of Sedna. So the themes of Sedna are themes of both betrayal, but also this is where the betrayed needs to respect. Okay, one of the mundane events that happened at this time was the 7th of October. Okay, and so for Israeli people, they had to kind of stand for themselves, and it's kind of like they felt betrayed by the international arena as well as their country. And they have to kind of stand for themselves and ask to be respected and going through the journey of, um, between accountability to the understanding that to be a part of the accountability is to be assertive and demand respect as healing from domestic violence or betrayal, and those themes. Gemini has to do with technology and trade and children, and how the kidnapping of the children, but on a less local level, it's where those themes of betrayal are not going from the fiscal banking system, land, sisterhood, and art to children trade, technology, city, and civil struggles or society. Okay, and that is more. Oh, and also transportation. Venus rules cars. Gemini is an air sign, so but Gemini would also be your car or your cell phone, or your digitation of even your identity is also Gemini. Okay, it's just to emphasize this. And for this transit is facilitated by Pluto trining. Um, so that is trining from your sixth house, and this transit is ingressing from your ninth house to your 10th house. And so if in the past issues of betrayal were an issue for you, it's very likely to be natal, unless you're like born around the 60s or older, then it would probably be around yes, around your eighth house. So we're going from being betrayed by your guru, your teacher, a philosopher you have admired, or international or abroad. Okay, things of betrayal when you travel abroad, or in academia, into your career, your public reputation. Okay, and this is also you have to watch not betraying yourself a little bit, because Mercury is really would be ruling both Sedna and your ascendant or Sun, Moon, or Stellium, and so the betrayal is can also be you betraying you in a way. So right now Mercury is in your sixth house. Um, but you have to also remember that following this betrayal, she became a sea goddess. Okay, so she was receiving like special powers, whether it's channeling or other things. Okay, so with that came other things. I also want to tell you on a mundane level, yes, sadness is also associated with amputation of the limbs in Gemini. And indeed, we had a lot of amputated limbs in the war that we know when Sedna was in Gemini. And we already know that the solution is printing human, it's becoming basically a bit of a humanoid little by little. And while this technology is very good, we understand that the solution was already there before the problem. And this is also something we need to consider. I vehemently advocate for investing in rare diseases to abolish the situation where to get funding for a certain situation, you have to make it a pandemic. So this is, yes, this is a thing to consider. Is to your 10th house is you as a boss, it's one of your elders. But this 10th house, you could be the one who is both betrayed and betraying. And again, if you're maybe your career, maybe you have a career that is to do with developing of such technologies that turn us into a little bit of humanoid, but also allow survival after like amputation of something like that. And so Pluto is trining from the sixth. This allows you to make your solution more apparent if you're marketing for such a solution. But if you are planning to be a participant in grand betrayal, expect that this will come about in the square. It's two decades from now, but you are going from the trine to the square with Pluto and Sedna. And this is Pluto closing cycle around Sedna. And this is also a completely another episode to consider and completely another perspective. So for you, because the ruler of Sedna is also the ruler of your ascendant, this one is going to play a part in a more personal way. And so the next step, yes, Mars, 13 February, Mars is going to conjunct Pluto in your 6th house. Saturn again is in your 7th. So beware of work and partnerships combining, okay, of your duties and your partnership combining. If you have a business or working with a significant other, this is where a major conflict can arise that triggers your 8th house as well, because Mars is ruling your 8th house. And so things can come up that are conflictual, and Mars Pluto is a hard aspect. If you are a day chart, Mars is the more problematic chart, and this is physical health, so beware of the physical health. If you have a pet, you might want to protect it. For this, perhaps, yes, Deneb Algedy is supposed to be safe if you work with talismans. So calling on Deneb Algedy to protect your pet and your physical health can be in place, can be auspicious. I don't understand enough in this to give you advice on that, but it's brainstorming. So yes, and of course it's not a personal reading. So beware of accidents. And here we're talking about inflammation to the nervous system is what more my concern is. Can be to do with poisoning because the Aries in Aries, okay? So this is where you want to, again, you can turn to Deneb Algedy, you can turn to, now the sun is sextile in Aries in Aries. It's a lovely time. So Deneb Algedy, Andromeda, Aries itself, okay? And when you turn to Aries, please call in also Deneb Algedy. The moon was transiting. I did an episode today when that happened. But for this transit, if you call on Aries, do call also on Deneb Algedy, because Deneb Algedy is about wealth redistribution, and Aries was excluded. So she was also excluded from wealth, and I don't mean the ruling elite. I mean she was basically on a fight for her survival. So she caused this chaos with her resourcefulness. Okay, this is Aries in Aries. Okay, Aries in Pisces was a completely different story because she was excluded from a myth. And so there was also a disillusionment when she was included. So the myth of the motherland or the Adolf Hitler calling for, why did they not invite me to fight with Germany? And then he would soon find out what this is about, and then blame the Jews. So yes, but he did nothing unusual to the leaders of his time, and we also must understand this. More things about this Mars ingress. We talk about your health. We talk about it's a closing synodic cycle with Pluto. Okay. And this means that you want to think about the past 2 and something years, where what happened about two and a half years ago, less than 2.5 years ago. What happened? Okay. And in your life, and now it's coming to a closure. So there's time to let go, to sever ties with the unjust here as well. But you could also be ending a traumatic cycle to you, okay? Anything 8th house, but you also need to understand that even though Rahu is in your 8th house, it's a house of investments, it's a house of debts. Mars is closing something here, okay? And so while Ketu is in your 2nd house, so you're supposed to go to a more of a, I don't want to say passive income because there's nothing passive about this. It's incredibly active, but it is more wealth management than actually making money by a skill that is not investing, okay? You need to learn to invest in a different way, okay? Update to the spirit of the time. Now there's sort of a closure to a cycle that began around 2 years ago when Ketu was ruled by Mars. Okay, so and Ketu was in Scorpio, which for you would be the 3rd house, while Taurus was your 9th house. So maybe you have moved to another country and now you try to do taxation. Now it's your 2nd admission, and now you are having to completely restructure things. The closure here is a conjunction, is a hard aspect, so every closure is a bit of a hard aspect. Pluto is a bit of a crisis planet, so there can be a little bit of a crisis where this ends. And then a new beginning starts where kind of your investments are going to be concerned with health or your duties, and so it's not impossible that you will have, if you have a medical condition, it's not impossible that either you will have another, which is, it can be, okay, and then you're like receiving welfare, or you will have a situation where you exit it and begin to work. But if this was not the case for you, it is not impossible that you will become a bit sick, and thanks to this will need to do something that is more reliant on like a passive income, or get funding from, I don't know, grant or funding like that. Why I say get a pet? Because if you get a pet, yes, you will have more expenses. You will need insurance maybe for the pet or something like this, which is also 8th house. But it is tending to alleviate. If you genuinely like animals and you can devote yourself to caring for them, sometimes, like in my case, the pet adopts you. And so this is also lovely. And so if you caretake for a pet, it's both good for your physical health, but it's also taking this energy where you are investing, okay, for something beautiful that grows, rather than in caretaking for an ailment for you, okay? Because 6th house is not particularly businessy, although Mars is ruling your 3rd house too. So you could be working, or you could be employed in your own business. That is another thing that can happen to you with this one. You must, of course, be aware, yes, there is expected fiscal collapse, energy collapse, okay, anything Plutonian, collapse, hacking into nervous systems, all these things. That some of them, like banking system, you know, Lada discusses, and Victor discusses, and some of these, and probably many others, okay, and nervous system, hacking into nervous system is something that I mentioned, but I don't know if I'm probably not the only one who mentioned this, and if so, there are many aspects to tend to that. So hacking into like somebody's nervous system, and then you know, that's something that you should be aware of. And so this can be affecting you physically, okay? In which case, no, you are not crazy, you are also not imagining. The ruler is in Pisces, which means there are medical things to tend to, but this Pisces also rules your 7th house, okay? This can also be that somebody at work tries to impose something on your partner, and 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 that shifts like your worldview on something like this. So again, you want to be understanding that there are things that are involved in this synodic cycle, um, and tend to that. So Venus will be ingressing through your sixth house, and this is the last planet to ingress to your sixth house, February 17, I believe. So let's just check this. It's fine, I'm doing this by heart. February, yes, February 16, she will ingress into your sixth house. And so Venus, she is ruling your 12th, no, sorry, Venus is ruling your second house and your ninth house. So for you, when Venus ingresses, this is a time where you can make money from your skill. Okay, you can be of service to people. If you are trying to market yourself with skill regarded, then either you can use a pet. Yes, because this is sixth house. Okay, so if you have like a pet and you market yourself, and you have a nice picture of you and your pet, and it's somehow related to your skill, it's lovely. It catches the eye for people. Um, but it is also possible that you will present your case as how do you serve others, how you are of service to others, depending on your natal placements. At least for the time being, this would be a good way to think, how am I of service? How is my skill useful to others? And make money from that. And this can also be a skill of teaching, because ninth house is also ruled by Venus. Or you could also be a travel influencer. But you have to think, how am I of service to people? Okay, one great video that Chris Brennan, he's not Virgo, he's Aquarius ascendant, but that Chris Brennan did during the October War was having an episode, I don't know if it was planned or not, an episode about astrocartography and relocation. Okay, so a lot of refugees in the world. He is an astrologer, and he brought in a guest that specializes in astrocartography, and that was an episode of how am I of service to people at this time. And another episode was talking about death or grief, and those you can see on the astrology podcast if you haven't looked at it already. So this is something of that sort I advise you to do with your skill. How am I of service to people at this time? Hone in on that, and that can earn you money during this ingress. So but you can also beware of female enemies at work, that they can try to, they're affecting your partnership if this is the case, okay? So you want to make sure that nobody comes to intervene between you and your partner that is having an ill will. Again, I can say from experience that partnerships that are good on the inside, they usually don't break from something external, but something internal. And I say this, okay, I've been decade-long friendship when someone were a little bit of two rebels. Many people, many tried to separate us. It was only when I began to do astrological magic, which was a bit of too much for this person, and began to channel, that they were very authentically telling me this is too much for me. Unfortunately, it was an acting out of violation of boundaries, which made it like the additional crisis. Like, no, you cannot. This one you do not go through together, and that was the internal thing that got the partnership to dissolve. in my Saturn maturation, their Saturn return, and not all the people from the outside. And they were trying many things, yes, but it was the internal thing where a person felt, in a power issue with me on that level, and that is human and understandable, and that is how it dissolved. Okay, it's very important to get this, because if you get other people trying to interfere with your partner, trying to this, trying to that, then it's important to remember that this is not about these people. It's about your partnership, and and Jupiter, the ruler of your partner, is in your ninth house. So yes, this is can be this the Saturn in your seventh testing time for your relationships. But if you meet a new partner at work, or where you are of service to people, just remember that the sixth house is also house of being subservient, and it's not compatible with equal relationship. I'm not saying this cannot work. You need natal placements to show for that. But it is a bit of a difficult placement for equal. Okay, first, it's not the seventh house, it's the sixth house. I am of service to you, not we are not equals in that respect. Okay, so this is Venus. Mercury, before Mercury, to your seventh house, Sun will ingress on February 19. Okay, Sun is ruling your 12th house. So you could either have great time in bed with your partner, or you could see, or your partner can reveal hidden enemies to you. Okay, which is also important. Okay, they can teach you of hidden enmities that you may have, because they are having the ruler of the 12th shining on them. You could channel things to your partner as well, or your partner could be channeling things. And it's also a time where patterns that undermine you could come up in your relationship, in which your partner could hopefully reflect that, but they can also be disillusioned, or you could be disillusioned if you act in a way that's a bit undermining you. With Leo, Leo is an open heart that cannot be closed, okay? So this can create for a lot of pain and heartache. And so if there are things you didn't know about regarding this arena in your life, they can be a little bit thrown at your partner. So, or coming up in your relationship. So you can tend to them now, because Leo is so open. Okay, it's ruling the heart. The heart is all the time open, it's all the time functioning. We're not functioning when it doesn't. Then there's a lot of stress, and this is why Leo is also associated with the ego, where we are very protective, and we need a lot of appreciation and admiration, and as the one that stands there, it looks like it just stands there, but if you look at the heart is beating all the time, non-stop, and so is the Leo heart. So that can be a point to understand them for a more compassionate view. And February 23, Mercury ingresses to your 7th house. This is where you get to communicate with your partner, but also this Mercury will be ruling Sedna. If you need to check how Mercury is. If Mercury is all in all well aspected in your natal chart, you might want, and Gemini is not, then you might want to consider a Mercury Gemini talisman for helping with the Sedna ingress to Gemini. Okay, so that can be useful because as Mercury ingresses to your 7th house, you will have meaningful conversation with your partner. You will also be at your partner's, okay? And that can be a very warm, compassionate, loving time where you kind of melt into each other. Saturn is still there, Neptune is still there. There's still various worlds that you are experience, kind of living a dream a little bit, and seeing what in this dream manifests, incarnates. This is Saturn coming to incarnate this dream as well. But also there can be disillusionment. Okay, I tried to paint a flower the other day, and it was nothing like how I envisioned it. But this was a beautiful flower. If I looked at it afterwards, just not what I expected. So that can be happening in your relationship as well, to you and to your partner. But because this Mercury will be ruling Sedna, themes of betrayal can come to the topic, not only to be discussed, but they can also happen. And this is where I tell you, okay, if it is okay with you and your Mercury is relatively okay aspected, you can work with the Mercury talisman in Gemini to address this and ask to address the Sedna. And of course, if you're so inclined, you can try and work with Sedna directly. There is not a heavy corpus of work in astrological magic to do with a Sedna outside of like Inuit realm, which we're not exposed to. So um, I have began to work with Sedna, and you can watch my episodes that are involving Sedna, and that might be useful. But know that this is like uh, completely new. Okay, it's not something I see people talking about. I don't see people making Sedna talismans, and so on and so forth. So February 10, we've crossed this. This was the new moon in Aquarius. It happened today, and this was in your sixth house. Um, Brand new beginning, but also brand new letting go. A lot of eurekas. It's also a great time to film this for you, because now it is time where you get the new ideas. This could be pertaining to your work, understanding the connection between Taurus, where Uranus is, Pisces, where Saturn is, and Aquarius, because the new moon is squaring Aquarius, and Venus in Capricorn is trining, releasing from the trine to Aquarius. So a lot of eurekas, the relationship between your relationships and worldview and work and health, and having or not having pets, and duties, or where you are of service. All of these things, they blend together, and a series of I got it, 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 begin to unfold. And this is a closing cycle, the closing synodic cycle of the moon and the sun with Uranus. It's a closing square. And for Venus, it's a closing trine. So this is something that you have been dealing with for a while. With the sun, yes, almost the past year. And with the moon is happening, every month. But when they conjoin, you get a big eureka about also the topics that you're dealing with. It could also be related to your activism, social agendas, crowdfunding, if you do such crowdfunding, or investment in crowdfunding based platforms, like startups or stuff like that, and also to your mental health. So you can get a lot of I get it. Now I get it. Now I get it. You might want to watch several of my episodes, because we are opposite ascendants. So to me, I would have this Eureka is about the mental health, but you is the Eureka and the physical health, because Leo is my sixth. But for you, Leo is um, the 12th. Okay. So what people could recall like hidden megalomanic tendencies or something like this, can actually be traced to the heart and the function of the heart and so on. So a more compassionate view, um, uh, and whatever other eurekas you may have in this situation. Um, Full moon. Let's talk about the full moon. Full moon is in your sign, first house. This happens on February 25th. And this is Of course, the opposition of the moon and sun. Moon is in your house, 5 degrees. Sun at your seventh house, also 5 degrees. So something is revealed about your relationship, and you could be revealing a dream to your partner or revealing a dream that your partner has, because moon is ruling your goals and dreams. And so that can be some sort of a revelation that is supported by your partner's worldview. Um, Although there is a little bit of a stress or opposition, maybe from one of your parents, or this one parent is for, one parent is against, or from kind of like a hidden block to wealth, okay, where the sun could be playing this hidden block to wealth. Um, but because the sun is in the seventh house, then you want to be talking with Pisces placements, although they can present a bit of a Saturnian effect on you, so they can be a bit critical, but they can also point at or illuminate at certain things. And if they do so compassionately, then you can speak with them, and you can actually get good insights. So this is a culmination. Okay, you're revealing something and you're letting go. So I don't think this is giving up a dream that you have. It can be that a dream that you have is coming to full fruition, and that affects your one-to-one relationships or partnerships around this. And your partner could be having a good idea or a compatible philosophy to deal with what is coming up. There is a square, however, between Jupiter and Mars conjuncts Venus, again in your sixth house. So Mars, Venus, they're ruling your eighth house, your second house, your third house, and your ninth house. How much do we like to spend on traveling or education as a couple? Can be a point of discussion, or also a reality check. Okay, and so your let's say you could be, for example, taking a big loan for a vacation, or studying something new, or your partner could be, and this is a little bit in conflict because you might have planned to save money, or um, you might not have planned such a big expense. Okay, and the Mars Jupiter, it's going to be a big expense. So but you could at least be enjoying that, because Venus is conjunct in Mars. It does square Jupiter, but it can also mean big pleasures. Um, so or you could be traveling with a pet. How will I travel? Now we have a pet. We have to take the pet with us, which is a lot of expenses. But it's also great, and it limits a lot, where you can be. But it's also a great joy. And then your partner can say, lo and behold, we can make videos of us traveling with the pet, and we can even make money on YouTube on that. Um, so the next one, after the, yes. So a little bit before this full moon, we have the conjunction of Venus and Mars. No, a little bit, yes, before. And this is, let's go to one of them, the Venus-Mars. And again, this is a conjunction that is happening in your sixth house. Most of it I have just addressed. 6 degrees Aquarius. 6 degrees Aquarius, and the moon is opposing it. It's, yeah, it will be opposing it at the time of the perfection. So there's a T square with Jupiter, and moon is opposing from your 12th house. Okay, so you want to also take what I just said and think about your mental and physical health. And here there is a little bit of a challenge. There's a new beginning that is challenging um, uh, or, or and challenging again. It doesn't have to be. It could be your dream is incarnating and it has implications. Okay, it has a budget that you need. It has conversations that need to be made. It has considerations. Has more planning to do. Um, because these two are ruled by Saturn. But there is also passion. A healthy sex can be also, yes, a great dose of healthy sex can also occur. You just want to make sure this, if you are working together, then this might be a little bit of a problem later, or posing a challenge to you as partners. But it can also mean that I don't know, you volunteer and you meet the person at that place. Or you at work and you meet a person at that place. And then I told you, you must be cautious in that respect. The sixth house is a house of ailment, is a house of enemies. So it can be a little bit of a sick love, if that is the case. What's more? Well, we do have the Mercury Saturn Sun conjunction, February 28th, towards the end of the month. And this is another synodic cycle, several synodic cycles opening all at once. And it begins to rain. So, all in your seventh. So, what it can be. And again, I want to, before we begin with the fun and joy, because this, this can mean new partner, new kink, new play, new ways of self-discovery, and can also boost your energy a little bit. You might even get a promotion. Okay, these times where you meet a partner, you meet someone, it's more you have matured, they have matured, you know each other well, your energy is working well, now you're more competent and you actually, it helps you to progress at work. Granted that you're not sleeping with the boss or that you are the boss in this case, because you could be. But this Mercury is again also ruling Sedna. There can be that you are reminded of the way betrayal played a part in your life, or maybe your parents' life, or their marital life, and now it is an issue in your marital life. Now, because Sedna is new to Gemini, I suspected this to be not an old issue. And this is where it can either be something that has affected your worldview, just moving, transiting from the Taurus land to the 10th house and relationship land. But it can absolutely be where, this new beginning has a signature of something that could be involving a betrayal to do with your reputation. Okay, so again, there hasn't been a worse time almost to have an affair with someone, if it is not just love affairs going with someone who is ready for that and available for that, and you're ready and available. And so there is a closing of a cycle. Now, because it is closing of a cycle, can simply mean that if you have had such betrayals or cheatings or whatever you call it, you might find that the issue is a little bit bigger than you thought, but you can also have the chance to kind of open a new cycle and deal with that. It's like, oh, I thought that this was affecting my worldview. Now I see that it's literally affecting my public reputation, and or my public reputation. This is affecting my dating life, or I try to date someone, or something like that. So again, you want to be working with this Mercury, and you want to be honoring this Sedna, and seeing what is coming up. Um, and also, if this is a new beginning for you, then you want to take those things into consideration. And yes, it's not for me to plant like fear in your heart, but it's more to see that this is an issue, and to see how do people like address this issue. So yes, um, more on this just fated new beginning in your seventh house. So partnerships, you could be saying goodbye, but you could also be starting something. And I think those are the synodic cycles that we have. And you can see Chiron is also conjuncting Rahu here. And this is a great time because I still haven't watched Victor. Keep having Victor, Victor, Victor. You can see my accent is changing. I'm like, what? What? And we don't know each other, never met. Like, it's just watch, it's just a colleague. So he has an episode on the Rahu Chiron that I guess I need to watch. So that's why it's coming up. But now, because I haven't yet watched, then I can try to give you a little bit of a tidbit around this. Rahu is where we are heading, but we've never been there before. And it can both be like a little bit of the promised land, okay? It's like you have to do this, so you can either live in this, like this is the promised land, this is and all the challenges on the way, and you can be a little bit of disillusioned when you get there. It's the promised land, but there is no free water, there is no infrastructure, there is no this, there is no pioneering in that region, and this is your eighth house. So, but Rahu is also where you are headed to. So would you rather like not be idealistic about this and not even have the energy to like drag yourself back, not back years forward, or would you rather be a little bit of idealistic or aspire or I want to go there, I want to try this? Probably you rather want to deal with that, and Chiron is about a wound that we have. But what's particular about this wound is Chiron is the wounded healer, which means that when you try to go for therapy or to the healers or to conventional, but also to not conventional medicine, the solutions look like Swiss cheese. And you have to fill in the gaps, and those filler ups are basically your healing theory, your healing skill that can later help people for them, for both the Chiron issues, but also it can be a part of the Swiss cheese of somebody else's healing journey. And for you, it's eighth house, so we are talking about traumas as well. Depending on where your Mars is, yes, they can also be like war traumas as well, I have to admit. But this can also be trauma from like trying to be an entrepreneur or but this is investment. It's not like you are an entrepreneur trying to invest in this, new thing, and then new things. The raison d'être behind new things is to try and then try again and then try again and so on and so forth. So this is where this can be frustrating. But you are desiring to tackle this wound. Okay, there is a desire to tend to the Chiron wound there, and so you are, or could be, you are afraid and curious about this. Okay, you are both afraid and curious about this. Again, Mars is in the 11th, but it's not all the time in the, hopefully it's not going to be the whole time in the 11th, and Jupiter in the 11th. So if what you're thinking about exploring is suicide, then okay, there is merit to that with dignity. Yes, the ability to say, okay, to end your life with dignity is making it more accessible to live your life with dignity. Absolutely. And so with that in mind, perhaps you can move forward where, and again, you're going to have to build on that Swiss cheese yourself and fill the gaps. With that, you might have to move forward in the understanding that both the solution to this problem of death with dignity and the solution of life with dignity are becoming accessible to you. And so, if this is what you're pondering about, or your partner is, then so this is something that yes, something that if it is in alignment to present itself to you, it will. But also you can see that with accessibility of, let's say, okay, this is what I can do. If things come to worse, this is what I can do. You can also receive the power to live as well, if this is what it's about. But again, it can be completely different things. And the nature of Chiron is that what they say is either completely untrue to you, and I'm saying it's not to discourage you, or not that there is no solution, but that your solution looks completely differently, and rather to understand that if what they say is like, oh, this doesn't work for me, it's the nature of Chiron that you will find the solution for you. Anything more, Chiron 8th house, you could be looking into hidden studies, occult studies, you could be even working at that. But that is in a bit of a conflict with your partner's worldview. It can also be that your worldview here is like, there's something interesting, because 8th house is also a very intimate partner. So if your marital partner and your very intimate partner are two different people, they will have opposing views. I just heard so many energies right now having a pause when I said that. And so, okay. Hopefully that's not why you're considering like, I get this Beyonce, like, of course, sometimes shit goes down when it's $1 billion on an elevator. So if that's you, I really hope you have this $1 billion so that everything can be distributed. But yeah, last is. So now I'm just curious to see what Victor has to say about this aspect. So Astro Victor had the Chiron Rahu conjunction, and that's it. I think we're done, right? I didn't miss anything. So this is for you, and yes, if you are so inclined to pay me a little bit of a donation and you can afford it, then you can either go to my Twitter and I share people that have no housing or need care, like money for like health or something like this. Then first of all, donate to them. You don't even have to inform me, and this would be a great think if I can promote this, so to allocate the money to where it's most needed currently. And if you can do more than that, my Twitter is Talish here. And if you want to do more than that, then I do have a PayPal. And right now I'm in a transition phase. So because the world is crazy, I don't know what to do with accountants, what to do with all these things, and that would be yeah. So you can reach me at my PayPal. It's made to love magic1@gmail.com. And if you want to make a donation, but please first donate to those people who right now are not housed, and people before funds. That can be a great thing if I can facilitate more awareness to that. And so, yes. So have an easy February. It is a lot of it's a lot of endings and a lot of new beginnings. And so it can drain a little bit on the energy when it's all happening in the sixth house. So there's a lot of activity surrounding your health regimes, stuff like that. You might be so inclined to check up things that are connected with your health, your regime. I think Victor did something like that, or supposed to do something like that, or should do something like that after his Saturn, mastering Saturn in the first house thingy. Um, and that can be for you. Another person I would recommend is there's an upcoming app. I don't get money for this right now. I'm very open to getting dividends from Camilla. If you watch Julie and Camilla, Norwegian couple, and Camilla is working on freedom food kind of fitness that doesn't make you feel bad about your body. And I really like what she's doing there. I really like her whole perception. Like if I would do something like this, and I would say, oh my God, I have no power to work on this, to dedicate all that much time to this. Who can I get to do this? Then Camila would be the go-to person. So again, haven't spoken with any of them, but if you would like to create such connection and get dividends for making the deal, then that can also be the case. I'm open to the suggestions, and I have limited energy, so if you facilitate that, that could be great. And that is something you might want to incorporate or look at of such innovations. Or you might be interested of such things for investment as well. I don't know if I'm open to investment, but with Mars in your sixth house is not impossible. I don't know to be advisor on your investments. If I did, I would probably be a lot richer right now if I would apply it. Or maybe I just did. So have a lovely February.